All right, hello everybody, and welcome on back. Sorry, I just really wanted to kind of finish that up. So we're talking about making the mausoleum, and we're gonna go ahead and do some brainstorming about like the statues. But just to give a little backstory, and it's important to understand why I advocate for the things I advocate for, and that is legal adult sex work, legal cannabis, ethical non-monogamy as a social standard, cannabis use as a social standard, like almost how tobacco used to be, like people walking around their house or their study with like a marijuana pipe or a cannabis pipe and just being smoking on it or whatever. Like not around kids because we know that smoke is bad for kids and whatnot, but like just normalize being like, oh, I'm gonna step outside for a sec, for a quick puff or whatever. And people are even starting to. There's this product where you can snort this caffeine powder, and so then that just looks bad. But I almost wonder, like, well, wait, what if we legalize a lot of things, and then, or just somehow make it synthetic to where it's like you're doing the harder drugs, like the stimulants, but you're not actually doing them, and it's not as dangerous for your body. And that last part's key because a lot of the synthetic substances that people have tried to do, like bath salts, are horrible and they can kill you. And even what was it, spice? It was fake weed, fake cannabis, fake marijuana, and that's what people on probation would smoke because they'd be like, "Well, I want to smoke weed, but I know it's going to show up in a drug test because sometimes that stuff can stay in your system for up to a month. Like if you smoke weed, it could." And I had a friend who was on probation that he had it down to a science. Like he would smoke one bowl on a Friday night, and then by Monday he was good, and he was drinking tons of water. And then that's what he was telling us. He was like, "I have it down to a science." And honestly, I don't know if he probably failed the UA at some point. Like you can't really go that far doing that. And there's drinks that they sell like that will help you pass the UA, but they're not guaranteed, and they're like $30 or something. So it's expensive, and then you're already paying for UAs, which are, I want to say they're $10 to $15, depending on where you're at and what you get sentenced to, like what's available to you. And each case is different. And there's even in Fort Collins, there's our moms, there's a couple other counseling places, there's a few testing centers, there's the halfway house, there's work release, and they even have some new fancy buildings of that too. Like work release used to be just this giant, like big open room in an old building with like it was like a residence, or it was basically like a storm shelter. Like you see, like when they convert stadiums into a bunch of bunk beds and cots, like that's what it was. And then and now it's like this fancy new building that, I mean, still, I think the concept is very similar, but I think they're closer to like living in cells, like apartment style jails. I think, I don't know, but still packing them in as much as you can and trying to like process as many people. And it's good because they're emptying out prisons and they're sending a bunch of people to these alternative sentencing units or these alternative sentencing paths or things. So, yeah, I'm gonna need to enchant this armor at some point. That's how you get the cacti, though. Okay. I basically need to AFK around here for a bit, but anyways, let's keep talking about that. It's a macabre subject, but the people that have died in my life and how they've died and how to prevent that. So how to protect against that. The important things, the really important things in life. Now, yes, you should do Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or I guess Cub Scouts, and they've been even kind of mixing it. My daughter was able to join in on some of the Cub Scouty things, but still we haven't really done Girl Scouts for her, and I don't know. There's some survivalist things that I want them to learn, and I'll either teach them myself or take them camping or something. But anyways, like I grew up doing a lot of that, like camping, military stuff, guns, shooting that. Like I've taught them how to shoot Nerf guns, but I don't really care for guns in the city. Like I mean, I have a lot of friends that are cops. I have cops on speed dial. Like, if something's fishy, I could just even have somebody come by and take a check. Like, they're usually bored, and like if they don't got something going on, or depending on the severity of it. My point is I basically have like on-demand security with guns, like to where I don't need them. All I need to do is either deflect, stall, and law-abiding citizen is it's a scary movie because it shows like the potential of like what you could need to protect against. So, and understanding why like there's still the need for gun rights to a point. And Colorado has realized that, and Governor Polis, among some tighter rules around guns, I was reading that he actually lifted taking away the gun rights to people that have nonviolent felonies. Now, that's huge because if you get caught with drugs, not only do you possibly go to prison or go to alternative sentencing for a few years or whatever, like some harsh punishment like that, you also lose your right to have guns or even be in a car with guns. And I know of somebody who was riding in a car that someone had a gun and they charged him with it. And he had just gotten out of prison. He just went through the halfway house, and he just like finally like got his freedom, and he was like living on probation out in the public, and he was just in a car where there was a gun. Now there's probably more to that story, but that's the dangerous reality. There doesn't have to be more to that story. That could just be, well, he should have known better. Like, really? And we're still to that point, where someone's life, like years, I think the dude went back for like another couple of years, and he might not have even known that it was there. He probably knew it was there, but because I feel like, yeah. But anyways, so it's a balancing act with trying to keep the Constitution going with the two-way and like not infringe the rights to bear arms, but a well-regulated militia. So that, that always to me meant, and again, I grew up Methodist, so even Christianity was more of like, this is what I think, and this is what I feel like this means. And we would study it. We'd be like, okay, like, does that really make sense? And so I feel like Methodists were, on average, not always, but on average, a little more intelligent than like the Westboro Baptists, like the ones that seem more hardcore. And a lot of that's just because they have a different rate of exposure to change. And so then when they get more exposure and more understanding and clarity, then things are less scary and they're like, oh, okay, or maybe they don't. Maybe they still suffer from, delusions of anxiety, like, extreme things that aren't really real or even relevant. Like, there's all sorts of different ways to explain it. But basically, the only reason people don't see eye to eye is because of their experience, their background, and stuff that you actually kind of take into consideration when thinking about making an artificial intelligence, like a true AI that thinks like a person. I mean, it's based on their experiences, their decisions, and how they weigh their decisions and the ratios of what they're going to choose and decide to really think like a person. You have to incorporate their history, their religion, their spirituality, or their lack of religion. Like, I would say I'm a skeptical Christian. I'm definitely not. Like, if Jesus came back, cool. I would have a lot of embarrassing moments to talk about. I'm hoping that it's more like Dogma, where the angels and God are all like more human, like more realistic. And I like to think that's true because, the Bible says that God made man in his image. And I'm doing the whole human thing where man would mean human. So God made human in their image, and you could just put a they. Like, it doesn't have to, but I don't really think God's a he. Like, if God exists, I mean, I really think God is a bunch of aliens. Like, I think the Ancient Alien things was really onto something on History Channel, like the late night History Channel. But because there's just a lot of evidence of like alien beings. Now, whether that's just people making up stories because they want it to be true and they like, make all these artifacts to make it seem like that's what happened, because it totally could be. Like, we could be finding all these old, like, Area 51 enthusiast shops, and that was, like, their version of it. Like, oh, aliens, oh, they probably have weird heads, too. And, like, or just, like, anything that could be slightly different, yet still be somewhat similar to show that it's a living thing, you know. It could all be a lie. Like, it could all be Hollywood, but it could not, too. I mean, like the pyramids, where the biggest selling point is, like, we still don't know how they did it. We don't have we don't have evidence of the tools for a lot of the theories of how we think they did it. Um, so that kind of either they did really good about disposing of the tools, getting rid of them, or if they were wood, they could have burned up or whatever. But like, there's no trace of them, and usually there's a trace of something, of like a tool shop, like a place that made the rigs that did whatever they did, because we have it for other stuff, but the pyramids not so much. And like, to try to recreate it and try to solve the problem today with modern machinery, it's ridiculous. Like, it can't really even be done all that easy. So it just makes me think that there might be something out there. Might, but then also the vast like distance to the next inhabitable place is very long, very far. So maybe, maybe not. And then you get into like stargates and like folding time and warping and all this, and the more sci-fi that we're pretty far from proving any of it to be possible. Probable, maybe. And then you get into like theoretical physics and astrophysics and things that like Neil would know about, but are above my pay grade, above my understanding. Because I focus on computers, and even more than that, I focus on the behavioral and psychological aspect of cybersecurity for global security, including cannabis laws. Like, if China legalized cannabis and shrooms, there'd be peace, world peace within a year. Like, they would fix a lot of their opiate problems. They would fix a lot of their alcohol problems because, lo and behold, they've got similar problems to us. Because I mean, people are people, and they've got drunk people that are poor, and like, even if it's real or perceived, like maybe they just think they're poor, then like people that have had it easy, and they might not know the whole story, the prince and the pauper ideologies. Like, there's all sorts of things to take into consideration there and understand. But I've been telling this Chinese government person on the X app, like, legalize weed. Taiwan would want to be a state. Have you thought about making Taiwan a state? And if you were like the United States, why not? Same with Russia. If Russia legalized weed and homosexuality, LGBTQ, because I think it's still illegal there. Like, you want to talk backwards and barbaric, like, you can't fool around with who you want lest you be like attacked, murdered. And that's like a thing from the Bible too, like lest you be stoned, I think is what the exact wording is. Um, but I think that was more just like, hey, don't do gay stuff because you need to make kids, you need to make families, we need to preserve the human race. And I think it was more that. It wasn't like, ew, gross, you're doing a gay thing, like you should be punished and actually like killed or hands cut off or whatever the heck, like, or thrown off roofs. That's what this army guy is talking about for LGBTQ in like Fallujah in Iraq and like these places where we were at war for 20 years or occupying them, which I was against them, back then for all the reasons. South Park again for the win. Like they had an episode where the town was divided on like basically Republican and Democrat, like wanting to bring the troops home or wanting them to stick it out and do their job and kill a bunch of people. But they didn't phrase it that way. But they support their troops by what they have to do, their mission, their job, and they trust the chain of command. Now, there's some ups and downs to all of that. Like, you still want to trust the chain of command because, for movies like Independence Day, or like if we have encounters of hostile aliens, or, we need to be ready that way. Like, we need to just be able to protect ourselves from whatever. But then at the same time, we need to have like an open heart and be like, maybe they're not. And in the case of Independence Day with Will Smith, again, um, yeah, the aliens were very hostile, and we were fighting for our lives. It was a scenario that was concerning to people, just the idea of aliens. And then you got Star Wars, where it's more like they're like a bunch of different countries coming together. Like the aliens all know each other. They understand each other to a point anyway, to where they can do business and trading. And that's how international travel was for the longest time. But now I'm telling you, it's completely different. Everyone speaks English, and almost everybody understands each other, like both socially, like mentally, like we have more of an understanding than we've ever had before. And it's because so many people are out there being like, "Hey, check it out. We're the same, or we're so similar that there's really no point to be fighting." And like more people need to be able to be exposed to that, but it's so expensive to do that. Like going to college, I'm still going to be paying it for it for a while. Like, I mean, unless Biden can get some loan forgiveness stuff going, and I was a Pell Grant recipient, so yeah, it is definitely in my interest if he gets that part through. But even if not, I have a good job now, so I can pay him off in time. Like it's a pain. Like, hey, you finally make a lot of money, like, and it all goes away. Like, and I'm trying to get a new car, like a new used car. By the way, I wouldn't get a new car, but just something that's not going to die on me randomly, like in the street. Because I'm tromping around Foco in a pretty ghetto vehicle. Oh, and that's the other thing too. I almost got into a fight with a dude, and I was serious. I was challenging him to like come down, do an MMA match. I don't fight professionally, and I don't want to. But like he called me a pedo, and that's one thing I can't stand. Is like, if you're gonna call someone, you can call them a lot of names, but if you say they're a sex offender or a predator on a child, them's fighting words. Like anyone who's ever been in trouble, like, you know, you can't even say the B word to people. And I refuse to say that, and I teach my kids that too. Like, of all the words that you can say, that's the one I like the least. Like, don't say that. And I explained why. I was like, if ooh, did I mention that one time I had a nightmare that God tried to kill me? Oh, and also I am Confucius reincarnated. No, my birthday is very close to Confucius Day. Okay, it is. But and then you can get medical records with that kind of. Like I'm under such a microscope that like if people try to access my stuff from another country that does set up flags. And so like so I am kind of like a honeypot, but not the kind that you'd ever want. Like it's like, oh, we got this guy that's just like a bull in a china shop. I've had people describe myself that way. It's where if there's a flaw in a system, I'll find it. I'll be like, wait, this doesn't make sense, and use it as I expect, like a great like test user, but unfortunately too good, and point out like, well, normal people are going to do this. And so same with the reason that Trump is so special and so convincing to a lot of people is because he communicates on their level of like understanding, like a non-college level way of speaking. Like he panders to them, and it's dangerous because he says 30,000 lies, half truths, and misleading pieces of information. 30,000. Like, if you caught Biden saying that, on the one or two when he exaggerates, like, they get caught, found out right away. I'd like to see his numbers too, because I think there is a bias of that. Just having better communication tools, like that number's going to be higher. If, like, every president was attached to a microphone 24/7, or like a recording device like Trump is with Twitter and X app, and then now Truth Social, like, okay, the ratio of exposure is going to be higher. There's going to be more facts, more data, more speeches, more stuff, like, and more impromptu stuff to where people are going to think on their feet. And maybe they'll say something that later they'll be like, wait a minute, that's not right. Like, I do that all the time. I try not to. I try my hardest not to, but sometimes you just can't avoid it. Like, you say something dumb, someone's expecting an answer out of you. And that's why I'm good at like deflection to a point. Like, I'll say like, hold on, or I've got stalling tactics to where I actually get time to think about something, and then say something. And even then, I might just be like, you know what? I don't know enough about that. Like, I don't know, and just shrug. Like, there's no shame in saying you don't know. It's better than saying you do know and like saying something wrong. And that's such a generic. Oh, I did the same exact spot. It's such a generic thing because it's meant to be. That is a one size fits all thing. Like when you're talking to people, don't BS things. Like don't make up stuff just to get like a reaction. And then that's gonna degrade like how people view you. They'll be like, oh, they like to the fish stories. Like the fish was this big. Or like, oh, they like to brag and boast and like talk like you know make up lies and half truths. Well, and Trump's all about that. He's got to be popular. Biden does that too. Like they got to sell themselves to people. Like vote for me and blah blah blah. And they literally are selling themselves because to get donors, they have to say, oh well, I'll vote this way or I'll protect this or this is important to me. And that could sometimes involve like some pretty sketchy legislation, like war. Selling a bunch of arms and stuff. Wait, let's see. One, two, three, four. We're getting to the point where I need some wall. Oh, this is cool though. Look how far up we are too. We can see so far. And once we do make the mausoleum, oh, and then lightning. That is so awesome. Yeah, in my dream, I used to play a lot of Wolfenstein, Castle Wolfenstein, the 3D one, I guess. I guess there was another one that I'm not as familiar with. But anyways, really like bad graphics, Nazis attacking you. You kill Hitler, and God looked like Hitler. Like it was really messed up, and he was shooting lightning bolts at me, and I was hiding behind little video game plants. They were flat, like two-dimensional plant objects, and I was like hiding behind it, and then it would zap the one behind me. And it was like that Gladiator show where they'd like run and like hide behind an obstacle, and then they'd shoot like the foam balls and like pew pew pew, pew, and you're just getting pelted at, and like you gotta run, you can't get hit, can't get hit. Anyways, and then God kept like zapping the bush behind me, and it was a playground. Also, check this out. Whee! Ah! Oh, that's never gonna get old. All right, let's see how far. That is quite the tower, the Emerald Tower. I need to fix that. Anyways, so I now had that. Hey, careful! If you die, you die. Like I put the thing up. I guess I need to put maybe glass around it. Yeah. Oops. Okay. Getting a lot of notifications going on. This should be my last one tonight. There we go. Now he can't die from lava. You can try. You can jump up here. Okay, well, if you jump up and you go on top of the glass, gotta baby-proof this. And it is kind of like baby-proof because they don't act with logic and reason like people do. Their AI isn't that advanced, so they could accidentally path to where they could get burned on that. Now they can't. That's why I smacked him. You'll be fine. If anything, this is like the anti-drowning thing, because even as they're going, now if you put magma blocks under there, that would pull people down and kill them. And that's how you do the other way of, yeah, we'll have to do a water elevator. But even where we're at now, let's try to go where the cacti are, so they can be spawning while I'm talking. Let's get a good look at it. We still have 1, 2, 3 that need to be finished. And then like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 10 more. So yeah, we're gonna need a lot of glass. Yeah, we have a shovel that can harvest a ton now. There's also a lot of sand. Yeah, let's go do that. There's also a lot of sand under here. Let's kind of go far away because I want to kind of preserve this as is for the underwater roller coasters. Go over here, get sand, get glass. We gotta get cacti. Maybe we can get that as we're wandering around too. Any of that, like I see some up there. In fact, like stuff like this where it wouldn't be missed or even noticed. Just kind of continue to terraform. Try not to do that, but it's gonna happen. So, 'cause now it's like you even look at it, it's gonna be harvested. It's that efficient. Hmm. Strange. Only getting one off of those. And I don't think I have a mob grinder. Yeah, I don't have one here, or a cactus farm. 'Cause usually I have one that makes a bunch of. Yeah, I'm only getting one out of them. That's annoying. There. It's increasing. Oh, they're like disappearing. Oh, that's annoying. Alright. Anyways, now I can get some sand while I'm up here. So, anyways, just the things that I've witnessed that are potentially fatal, lethal, and the degree of which we need to protect against them. So, wars, like that's the biggest thing. The Ukraine, the Taiwan thing, like those are concerning. Those need to be figured out. Puzzles and problems to be solved. And how you go about it. Now, there's the brute force where we can just attack everybody and kill people and like scare people into submission. Basically terrorism the other way, by using fear and violence to govern a people or to convince someone to live a certain way. And that's what America's been doing. Like, I mean, I know we have the war on terror and we like to think, oh yeah, no, we're going to protect against people doing that. Well, even the jihadists and the people that flew the planes, like, I'm not justifying what they did by any means. It was an attack, and as such, like, I'm glad we went out and we sought them out and we brought a bunch to justice. But at the same time, blood for blood, an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind, and it's not going to actually solve the problems. So What is going to solve the problem is continued integration with these other people and explaining like this is what's going on, and then and wealth too and greed and all that. Like so, a lot of the stuff the Bible still addresses, like the seven deadly sins. Or you could watch the Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt version or movie Seven, and they go through the seven deadly sins, and it's like a quick run through, so you don't have to read the whole Bible, and because a lot of people are turned away from Christianity, especially because of all the bad stuff that has been done in the name of Christianity throughout history. The Crusades, the Spanish Inquisition, stuff that Mel Brooks makes fun of in his movies, like The History of the World. I think part two. I don't know. I don't even know if there's two of them. I think that for some reason I have it in my mind that like there's something didn't really seem right about that. Like, or maybe I just haven't seen previews for one of them. I've only seen previews for the other, and I still haven't even seen Police Squad. I didn't know that there was a TV show that Leslie Nielsen was on, and same with Bean. Like, there's Mr. Bean, and then there's a whole show with Mr. Bean clips, which was mostly silent comedy, but or no talking comedy, which and I used to watch Laurel and Hardy all the time, so that was actual silent comedy. Or when they did start talking, it was like they'd say very minimal things, and it was still a lot of like nonverbal communication to get the joke across. So, and all of this ties back to communication technology, which it seems so weird, but that ended up being one of my favorite classes. And I had a lot of really cool classes about learning algorithms and programming, encryption, security, like all sorts of cool tech stuff. But communication technology, like a pen, a Google account, a Gmail, or a Hotmail if you're my age, like, or AOL, or whatever. Um, just keep putting those out. And harvesting sand. Ooh, look at how much it's being used, though. Like, I gotta be careful. I'll only get a few more stacks, and that's the kind of downside of making them go opaque. That's a setting you can do. Like, so when my tools, they'll fade. But then so does the durability bar. It fades, and so it's harder to see. Because, yeah, it's under half durability now. Yeah. Look at that tower, though. You can see it from far away, and once it's done, that's easily like a third still. Maybe getting closer to half. Like, that's more half right there. So, but progress. I mean, within this season, it went from being like a basically two-story, maybe three-story, unfinished construction. Same with that tree, though. I gotta build up the tree, so and maybe that we could build the world height or build height. Because that, I mean, it's a similar process. You can just stack trees on top of each other, and I've got the four trees on the sides. I also need to do the moss from the top because in bedrock it doesn't move laterally. We found out still to this day, like you don't see any lateral movement of those vines. In fact, the vines that are covering are just for the real trees, and then I've put logs in between them to make it look like that's one giant tree. And yeah, that's still an ongoing project. Oh, and let's see, we're almost to the yeah. We don't want this shovel to break. That'd be a very expensive mistake. Now I'm rhyming. Dr. Susan? Yeah, it's time for bed. I'm starting to get silly. Nice. Don't want to waste too much of the... Ooh. Or any of this. Oh, and there's the alarm. So, ta-ta for now. That's good for tonight. I'm going to go heal these up. Might maybe play a little off camera. But basically, what we're going to do in this season, I guess Oasis Season 4, until I find Season 4 if there's a playlist of it. But whatever it is, we're moving on to the next season. And I'll double check and make sure Oasis 3, we got like 30 to 40 videos in there. So about half of that in hours. It's pretty long, and considering, well, this is like an ongoing concept. It could keep going forever and ever. They'll just keep repeating like computer science concepts, cybersecurity. But what we're covering this season is a memorial mausoleum type temple. I'll even build up Chatty Boy as a god statue or something. and pay homage to the people in my life that are no longer here, and then and work to help the people that are still in my life. Um, and everybody, people that aren't in my life, like random strangers. Everybody deserves the same human principles, the same advantages, the same benefits, the same everything. Like, it might become a bit of a boring world after that, but then we can focus on, I don't know, building something on the moon together. I don't know. But like, for now, people are dying, and that's just not okay. Like, they should still be able to live to fight another day, live to puzzle another day, live to enjoy another day, or live to work another day, whatever you want to look at it as. So, anyways, ta ta for now. Have a good night. I will see you in the next one.